Welcome back to the Be More podcast, where we inspire you to be more of every role within the Salesforce, Slack, Tableau, and MuleSoft ecosystems and beyond. For today's episode, we are exploring what it means to be more stage mum. And I'm joined by Tristan. So if you could start by introducing yourself for our audience, please.
Well, first and foremost, I just want to say thank you so much. It's an honor to be a part of this podcast, Tom. So thank you. Yes, Tristan Lombard here, stage mom. People wonder, what is that? Think Kris Jenner, ruthless matriarch of the Kardashians and Jenners, but I do it for everyone from software developers to founders. Previously, a lot of experience in test automation. Shout out to all of you amazing quality professionals. That's everyone. And then prior to that, a lot of experience running homeless youth shelters, managing 60 plus caseloads of homeless youth in the Tenderloin of San Francisco. But yeah, I'm coming up on 8 years in tech right now, and just currently running my own consulting business for about 2.5 years right now. I am hiring for a graphic designer.
Awesome.
But yeah, that's me.
Well, props for that. And I love how you're very on brand today. Loving the outfit. And I can see Matt's book in the background as well, amongst your foliage.
Oh,
Yeah.
yes, but I was actually, Matt, we love you, but no, I was actually going to plug my DevOps AI and Beyond book club. And this right here is Looks Good to Me, Constructive Code Reviews. It's by Adrian Braganzana. And this is one of the many books that we read every month in our book club, and anyone's welcome. So sorry, Matt, love you. Definitely read Securing Salesforce Digital Experiences. But we're talking about Adriana today. Yes, always plug them.
All right. Awesome. Well, let's get into it. So set the scene for us, right? What is a stage mom? You kind of hinted at it already, but dive into a little bit more.
That was a hint.
Yeah.
I told Tom earlier in the VIP stage room, I said, subtlety is not really an art I care to patron.
Well,
Yeah,
not with
being
a
a
hat like that.
no, I've also
No.
bedazzled it. I've bedazzled it myself. You're welcome. Always have a bedazzle. Yeah, bedazzle parties are great. No, it's pride, and I know it's not pride, just for one day. It's all year round. But as a one-man gay pride parade, you got to do what you got to do. For my Tom, hashtag protect the dolls. Yeah, being a stage mom, what that really means, and I remember, years ago when I got into tech and I had this very sweet, lovable boss. Shout out to Bill, I love you. And Bill told me, he's like, Tristan, never call yourself a stage mom. People won't take you seriously and it'll hurt your opportunities. And I said, watch me. And so it really came about because I had one of my favorite, developers, shout out to Titus. Love you so much. Titus Fortner was my first ever House of Stage Mom member. And I just, saw his kind of creativity block. I knew what he wanted to do when it came to page objects. And so we kind of just leaned into it. And then from that, I started to see that, and he's a huge contributor of the Selenium open source community. And so I kind of fell into that community, largest, Selenium group around the world. And so from all of that, I started to see there were a lot of developers, SDETs, QA leaders, et cetera, and they really needed some help. And that help wasn't just about helping them identify what the topics were, making sure that the abstracts were compelling, but also that when they were there live, kind of calming their nerves too. And then from that, also making sure that, the story doesn't stop when you're on the stage. You want to make sure that you've got good pictures. You want to make sure that you've got good, videos. You want to make sure that they're comfortable so that they can interact with people after. That's how you continue to share that engineering leadership. And so that kept on growing. And then, next thing I knew, it was, hosting conferences. And then from that, I really realized there's a reason why only one in four, speakers is women identifying at these engineering conferences. That's got to change. That's why of my 400 plus members of my House of Stage Mom now, about 83% are non-overrepresented backgrounds. I have to double check that data, get back to you. But really it's about helping create that next generation of speakers. I think a lot of people really want to hold on to power. I'm not going to go into the details. Y'all read the headlines, but people also want to hold power and influence in the engineering communities, whether it's in the Salesforce ecosystem, wherever community. And so it's really about making sure we're bringing up that next gen of talent and making sure that their voices are heard too. Because I really do believe, I think Forbes had, and I promise I'll shut up. Forbes had, I think it was a while ago. It was like top 200 most successful companies. Anyone fact check me at any time, please. It was like top 200 most successful companies, and a big part of that was because the senior leadership, the C-suite, they had people from diverse represented backgrounds. And so I think that when we're talking about those rising leaders too, and those new voices, they help us run the ship forward. They can see some of those blind spots. So I also think it's important too because I talked about this at a Dreamforce talk too. Sorry, I don't know how to watch, but a lot of people are like, "Oh, I don't want to do public speaking. I don't want to do public speaking," and I'm like, if you don't address your phobias with that, right? The people who do, they see a 10% increase in managerial opportunities. And if that's not for you, swipe left, 15% increase on, salary increases. So really be thinking about when it comes to being a stage mom, it's really helping enable everyone from founders to developers, engineers, you name it, share their voice on the global stage. And that doesn't just have to be at a conference. It can be at a meetup. You can build your own stage like you've done and lift other people up onto it. Love you for that. Or it can be, your brand of value on LinkedIn and just sharing that knowledge. But these different avenues really, really do matter. And so being a stage mom is obviously like the greatest thing I've ever done in my life. I'm really, really grateful. Yeah.
Well, we are grateful too, and I know a couple of times at Dreamforce now where we've bumped into each other, and you've seen like myself and Vanessa probably preparing to speak. You've definitely been there for us in the front row, and also I love that thing about like taking pictures because as a speaker, you're kind of so caught up in the moment. And after our talk, before we kind of got kicked off this stage for the next person, it was like, quick, let's take a selfie and let's have pictures so we can remember this moment. And that's really important too, right?
And taking good photos
Mm.
because because I know that it's a skill that I have not yet mastered. But I think that when you're online, remember during the global panini, and everyone would be like talking online, and people would be like screenshotting, and someone would be like, I'm like, why would you do that? And why would you do that to that person and then tag them? Oh my gosh. So really it's about like, and that's the thing too, is people are like, well, I don't want to be like self-promotional. And I'm like, you're not being self-promotional. You're promoting a positive outcome for yourself and others. And so having good photos or videos, that matters because you spent all of this time delivering a talk, preparing. Why wouldn't you want to have some great visual assets that accompany that message you're trying to communicate?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. I think that's really important. And definitely as somebody that like used to struggle with public speaking, like
Yeah.
ultimately the only way I kind of got better at it was via exposure,
Say
you know?
more.
Yeah, and ultimately each time I did it, that kind of anxiety, that pressure, that stress was a little bit lesser. And
Mhm.
now I can do it and know that I'm kind of fully present. I'm there with the audience rather than being there in my head. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah. But it never really fully goes away, right? Because
No.
you always want to do your best, right?
Mm.
We're introverts moonlighting as extroverts, but at the end of
Yeah.
the day, we're fully always recovering perfectionists, right? And so we want to make sure that we are delivering the value, we're honoring the abstract that was accepted. A lot of countless hours go into putting on events. A lot of them are volunteer led. Shout out to all of you amazing, community group leaders, you community
Mhm.
conference leaders, like so we want to make sure that we're doing right for them too. And so that's a lot of pressure, I guess. But for you, friend, like you said, it was a conversation. So it goes back to you. I'm not going to do again a terrible Barbara Walters accent, but here we go. Tell me, Tom, as an introvert, how did you overcome, or like not overcome, but you know what I mean? Like, what's that tip that you would give to other people who've always wanted to go on a stage, but like are deathly afraid?
um, I think doing it with somebody that you know does
Yep.
help.
Yep.
And it certainly kind of alleviates some of that pressure as well. You can split the preparation and everything like, in literally in half.
Hmm.
I think also like at Dreamforce in particular, like when
Hmm.
I was there for the first time and even the second time, like
Yeah.
I did my session, and after my session, I just took a walk around the block and I listened to some music and I literally blocked everything out because that's what I needed to do. I needed to like recharge. I know there's different spaces at Dreamforce. I think that maybe there's like a quiet space and things like that.
Hmm.
So I think that's a great tip as well. And if you're worried about your technology, like there is so much preparation that you can do beforehand. Like Salesforce give you all the tech details, and you can go in and make sure that everything works before the big moment as well. So kind of a mixture of like preparation, but also just leaning into what works for you. And if you do need
Hmm.
to decompress afterwards, then that's
Hmm.
absolutely fine. Yeah.
Yeah. I love that. And also, I would say that too, you talked about that, finding that buddy to do it with. I 100% agree. And try and find someone who, may have a different role in the SDLC, right? So if you're, excuse me, if you're like a developer, can you find a tester, right? If you're a BA, can you find an admin? If you're an architect, you know what I mean? So like find that person who can add kind of like another lens, and or maybe they're in another industry. The other thing I'd say too is really anchor yourself, have that person in the front row because they also can help you with some of those photos. And then
Yeah.
two, when you're at Dreamforce, right? There's a lot of people. There's a reason why it's the world's largest software conference. And I get it. Like it can feel super, super overwhelming. So in addition to kind of getting a conference buddy, I would also say when you talk about going outside, going up to the MLK fountain and that little park above it, like is so nice. Also, great photos for later for
Yeah.
everyone. Yeah, you're welcome. Good lighting. Mm. But I think the biggest thing too is that people get so nervous and it's like, have fun. And then after, do not feel like you've got to respond to all the social media messages or tags. Like you're on your own SLA. So yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
Hmm.
I think that's really important. And talking about like the
Charming.
lens, I feel like the lens right now is trying to do me over. I'm just gonna see if no,
It's
that
really
didn't
trying to
work.
give you like a
Yeah.
real zoom in. This is an intimate interview, everyone, for
Yeah.
Pride.
I just didn't realize how intimate it was gonna be, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Always check your
So
settings, everyone. Preparation.
mm, yeah.
Mm.
Well, my camera has some AI in it, so I don't know
Mm,
quite what it's
spooky.
doing. It's doing something.
I'm here
Um,
for it.
so what types of roles, what types of people do you work with, like as a
Hmm.
stage mom? Is it lots of different people across lots of different backgrounds? Are they all in technology? Like, how does
Hmm.
it work out from that point of view?
Yeah, well, like I guess originally it would have been, like mainly helping my trans friends, get the gender affirming care that they deserve, or people getting off of meth or getting them jobs or housing. Didn't really know I was being a stage mom then.
Mm.
When I got into tech, I really started off within test automation, and software quality. And I still have a lot of those boo-boos in my life. I kind of fell into the Salesforce ecosystem, which I call a lovable cult of brilliant adult technologists who like plushy toys and also leveraging technology to solve real life
Mm.
solutions. But yeah, I think it's kind of evolved. Like I never really thought that I could get paid to do what I do. Like these days, it's a mixture. I obviously still stage mom and I mentor for free, but girl's got to pay for her sequins and
Yeah.
bedazzle. Yeah, so
Yeah.
expensive, this hat, so
It doesn't
expensive.
by itself. No.
That is correct. So really right now, I think my real niche has been, founder-led marketing. There's a reason why that new top of funnel, you think a lot about, what was the stat? Who was the source? I don't want to misquote anyone. The CEO of Hootsuite. She was talking about, Gen Z and how 86% of them have already made their decision when they're talking to sales. But at the same time, too, whether you're millennials, Gen Z, you name it, right? They really are more likely to trust a brand when your founder is active on social media. But so a real part of my pay has been a balance, right? It's been people that run their own consulting practices, and also though CEOs, developers who own their own companies, and they're really looking to get kind of that, known. I always tell people like, hey, if a tree falls in a forest, but no one knows that the forest even was there, why do we care about a sound or the tree? Like, people got to know about you before they can even learn about your product. And
Yeah.
so that's kind of been a huge focus of mine. I really, really love helping my sweet, nerdy founders and, building that brand of value. It's really not just about, public speaking. It's about helping them identify those best parts of themselves, aligning that with the product value, and doing it in an authentic and consistent way so that people are starting to learn about you, and they're learning about your product then. So that's like a big part of, the revenue. And there is unfortunately a wait list now, and I'm like, I need to hire someone. But I'm still always going to take those virtual coffees, I just have to budget that time out because time is money. But yeah, it's a real mixture. But again, I'm always going to focus on those rising stars. It's important.
Yeah, and I think that is super important, as well as like being authentic and genuine. If
Hmm.
you are saying something like just because somebody else is saying it, and you kind of feel like it's the right thing to say,
Uh huh.
like
Uh
that's
huh.
not authentic, that's not genuine.
Well, and it's also right, and it's also just boring. I always tell
Mm.
people too, like in a world of parrots, be a pigeon, right? Are you really just out there parroting what, the mothership wants you to say? Like, and I am so grateful for the Salesforce ecosystem, for everyone who's driving these amazing results. But instead of just parroting something or I did something, why not talk about why, Agent Force, or why Service Cloud, why were these solutions helpful? What is it that you actually got out of it? What did you learn out of their latest blog? Or how did you implement it, that solution? And how did that help your clients? Like, I want people to be more interesting, right? We don't need more parrots. We need more pigeons. If you remember nothing from this conversation on pride.
Be more,
Um,
yeah.
yeah, and I think the other thing too, I'd say for people go, a lot of people come back to me and they're like I was talking to this one founder and he was like, am I coming across as a bleep? And I was like, look at me editing myself. You're so welcome, Tom, because I curse like a sailor. I'm so proud of me. But he was, saying, am I coming across? And I was like, maybe a little bit distant and not interested. But he was like, well, I don't really know what I'm going to talk about. And I was like, you don't need to be on the big stage to start. You really don't need to be there, right? Like, I'm all about meeting people for continuous positive
Mm,
improvements where they're at for change. And so that could be something as simple as like being like, hey, I've made a goal for myself. I'm going to get an accountability buddy, and I'm going to start being more active on LinkedIn. The rest, that's y'all in your journey. God bless you. But for LinkedIn, that's also where the decision makers are, right? You need to advance your career. I never would have been able to do my own consulting gig if I had not authentically poured into my network that I do protect. I don't want any calls on synergy. I don't want any product pitches, y'all.
yeah.
But start off with like, hey, what are your three buckets for your brand of value? I always say anyone can have a personal brand and many shouldn't. A brand of value is different. A brand of value is where you are authentically sharing interesting insights. You are, uplifting other people's voices, connecting people with each other and knowledge. That's what a brand of value is. But what are your three buckets? And so the exercise I tell anyone I want to start, because I'm a lot farther in my introvert moonlighting as an extrovert journey than a lot of people. Yeah, I used to stutter. Have speech impediment too. Fun facts. So I would say, what are those three buckets for you? So one of them, about 20, if you are a founder or you're starting your own consulting practice or you're already in one, about 20% of that should be, authentic highlights of, the services or products you provide. You can do that through the customer lens. There's a reason by per Forbes, 77% of people are more likely to purchase a product if their peers can testify to it. So 20% should be about your products or services authentically through the customer lens. And then that middle part, that's the larger ecosystem that you live in, right? So it can be in test automation, it can be in Salesforce ecosystem engineering, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
The third and last part, this is the important part. This is the hashtag leadership. I always tell everyone that, there's a reason why people are on LinkedIn. That's where your decision makers are who are going to be purchasing that, right? And so from that, though, I always say there's a lot of, founders out there, leaders, they're like, kind of baby drag queen delusional. They think they're going to write a book one day. And I'm like, please do. But they're listening to leadership. So I would say it's the hashtag leadership. What is your brand of leadership, right? How do you as a CTO manage stress? How do you as a BA help, create more efficiencies and communication collaboration, right? So that's also where the personal element can come in. So with those three buckets, when you start thinking about that and posting one of those three each per week, that's how you're going to start gaining some of that confidence, having some of that consistency, and getting new opportunities that you didn't know you ever could, like
Hmm.
being on a stage
Yeah.
with Tom. Happy Pride, Tom. Happy Pride. Hmm. Hmm.
Yeah, awesome. Well, I think that's super helpful. And I like those ideas of those different buckets. I feel like
Hmm. Tell me.
I do some of that already, but it's
Mm.
certainly left me thinking about what else I could do to ultimately help more people like have a bigger impact and try not to fall out with my camera that keeps on zooming in on my face.
Can we get a round of applause for Tom's camera, everyone? Round of applause. We love it here. Yeah, I think, there's always going to be like, I could do more, I could help more, I could be more. But the
Mm,
bottom line is you only can do so much. And so I think that like the biggest thing that I love social media, is I'm not married to a company. I'm not a human billboard, right? And so I get to put out whatever I want. If social media becomes, because I often have these founders and they come to me and they have this whole content calendar and engagement. I'm like, are you going to have fun? And they're like, oh no, you're
yeah,
going to write it all. And I'm like, I'm going to have fun. I'm going to have fun. Because if you're not having fun on social media, what's the whole point? Like, let's pack it all up and let's go have that goat farm that we all have been dreaming about. Anyone else? Just me?
just
Okay.
you. Yeah.
Just me? Okay. Just want to make sure. Okay. Okay. Got it. But no, you should be having fun with your social. And I think the other thing I was saying too, and we're talking about this in the VIP green room. I just made that up because I feel like we're all VIPs. But if you're, we talk a lot about influencers, and again, I
Mm,
roll. But if you are a influencer, why are you not influencing for good? There's so much going on in the world right now, right? And I know that, there's a lot of social media NUI and world weariness, but there's also so many wonderful people out there online. And despite the statistics or your recent comments, um, so how are you helping though uplift those others, right? And I'm not out here trying to be like Mother Teresa, and I know I can come across as self-righteous, but I genuinely do believe it. How are we, in addition to sharing, platforms, in addition to sharing our knowledge with others and inspiring real technological change and innovation, how are we also doing the social change too? Because people do care, right? And each new generation cares even more than the last. So no tea, no shade, but how are you picking a cause or two? Shout out to Shirt Force. Do we have that anywhere
mhm.
nearby?
We
Yeah. Hmm.
do.
We do. Yes.
Oh, see, my
Yes.
camera's doing the dirty on me again. But
You can see enough. Shirt
it's
Force.
Flow,
Yeah.
Troublemaker, and then
Always
Shirt
and
Force on the
forever.
back.
Yeah. So like causes like that, like people are like, well, Tristan, I don't want to rock the boat. I don't want to be political. And I'm like, existing is political for many non-represented
Yeah.
backgrounds. So I'm sorry. But at a certain point, you do need to speak up for something. And so pick whatever your cause is, but use your platform for good. Back
Hmm.
to you.
Yeah. Wow. I think that's solid advice. I
Mhm.
love the little segue to Shirt Force there. As I was trying to figure out a way to get that on camera, you just fed that to me, so that was
I'm a
great.
stage mom. I already, yeah, I got you.
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
exactly.
Uh-huh.
You knew what
Uh-huh.
I needed and you gave it.
I know
So
where the exits are at all times.
yeah,
Mhm. Mhm.
perfect. Well, that's great. And yeah, there are amazing people doing amazing things like Shirt Force that's helping members of the community go to conferences that they wouldn't
Correct.
necessarily like be able to afford to go to. So
Yeah.
I think that's super important, and it is important to shine the light on those people and
Hmm.
uplift those people so they get more attention and they're able to make a bigger impact. I think that's super super clear there. So thinking
Hmm.
about this now, like as your
Hmm.
own stage mum journey, and you've touched
Hmm.
on it a little bit, right?
Yeah.
But if you were to start that all over again. And sounds like intentionally, like
Mm-hmm.
you weren't doing it intentionally, you just kind of reflect on it a little bit and now you realize that you were doing it. Um,
Mm.
is there anything you would change or do differently?
So many things, but we only
Yeah.
have so much time. Um, yeah, I think that, I think that I would have been, I think that I would have wanted to have at an earlier time help more people be a stage mom to others because
Right.
I was so focused in the, oh, I can do it, I can do it, I can do it, right? And so I think I would have been more forthcoming in kind of what that looked like. But then again, I guess I wouldn't have fully been able to break it down like that if I didn't have, so many like 5 hours of sleep per day, kind of
Mhm.
situations. I think so. I think being more kind of being more methodical and so I could help inspire other people to be more, stage moms to others. I think too, it really took me, quite a few years to realize that there are a lot of sharks in the ocean. And
Yeah.
there are a lot of people that appear one way, but are not that way, and action matters more. So I think I would have listened to people warning me more
Uh-huh.
about certain people that I took into my house as stage mom. But it's fine. You can always clean your houses, everyone. You can always unfollow, you can always block. You don't have to respond to everything on LinkedIn or in life. I think that would be the second one. And I think as well, how do I always tell people, I'm like, remember that no one will know what you are about if you don't put it out. And so I think, really owning that earlier on, that would have been helpful. I'm trying to think about what else. I think if I could do anything else differently, probably more hats. I think that's the most important thing. I think that's the most important thing. More hats.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think too, like I'm just really grateful for the opportunity to be honest. Like, I don't know why more people aren't calling themselves stage mom. Well, I have started hearing people say that, and I'm like, oh, I didn't invent it, neither did Abby Lee Miller, but here we are, But like, why not, y'all? La vida es muy corta. Life is very short, so why not uplift other people too, right? Because to quote Voltaire or some dead Greek guy, I think it was Voltaire, right? Like appreciation is a wonderful thing. It makes what's incredible in others, ours too. So yeah, I think there's that part. And I think just continuing to remember, like we don't always get the flowers that we deserve, but we can plant gardens for others to bloom. And so make sure that you're continuing to plant gardens for others to bloom and water your own damn flowers too, right?
Yeah.
So, like, it's not self promotion, it's promoting a positive outcome for all. So, get with it and happy
Mhm.
Pride.
And flowers are beneficial for everyone, you know?
Truly. Save the
So
bees.
yeah, exactly.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Well, we are kind of drawing to a close for today's episode,
Hmm.
but before we do go, what's a way for people to connect with you? And are there any particular pieces of content or anything out there that you think would help
Hmm.
somebody on their journey to be more stage mom?
Well, other than this future, Webby award-winning interview, so proud of you. So proud
Yeah.
of you. Yeah, no, I think one more time, round of applause for our Tom. You've been doing this for quite some time, and we all see it. And I hope that more people continue to appreciate it and get in contact with you. I'd say for me, just Google me. I know that seems vain, but I've been working hard on my SEO. But
Yeah.
I would say if there was one piece of content, I'll drop it in the comments after, but it was a conversation I did around building brands of value. And so I kind of break it down a little bit more. I think that was with Adobe and Avocados with my Marie and Nicole. I'll drop that in the comments. But I think that would be
Mhm.
helpful. But yeah, you can Google and y'all, you can call me, page me, beat me. You know how to reach me. I'm around, but again, I would love to see more of my non-overrepresented engineers and speakers on the global stage. Again, if 1 in 4 engineering conference speakers is women identifying, we got to change that. I don't have other stats for other non-overrepresented backgrounds, but again, we got to change that. So my DMs are always open, and I do budget X amount of time for
Mhm.
stage mom virtual coffees. Mhm.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, that is important. I did feel like a little bit we were going back in time when you said page me. But
Kim Possible,
you know,
Nobel
like
laureate. Uh-huh.
honestly, I was watching Gilmore Girls today and somebody said that and I was like, but you know, Gilmore Girls is like 20 years old, right? So
Thank God for concealer and your amazing
sorry, not
camera
sorry.
work. But I do also want to say too, I know we're at the time, but I also want to
Mm,
say to everyone, especially anyone who's on the rainbow spectrum, like know that pride is all year round.
mhm.
You may be out there somewhere, you may be, just starting your career with everything that's going on in the world. You may feel like you can't be your authentic self. And I'm here to tell you, you can. So just remember to continue to build your board, have your allies, and focus on you because we need you and we need your authenticity. We need your engineering creativity and we need your brands of value out there. So pride is all year round,
Yes.
and stay true to you.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, that is, I think, a great point to end on. So thanks again for your time.
Toodles. Mwah.
Bye.
Bye.